Compliance is a profession where people work tirelessly to make the world a better place. And there are hundreds of amazing and inspiring women who have helped the field develop into what it is today. Great Women in Compliance is part of the Compliance Podcast Network, so join Mary, Shirley, and Lisa Fine as they talk with women in compliance who are making a difference.
Hi, you're listening to Great Women in Compliance on the Compliance Podcast Network with Mary Shirley and Lisa Fine. Today, I'm speaking with Joya Williams, who has built a career in the compliance field. Joya is built in Houston, based in Houston, and in her career, she has had a front row seat to watch a few of the most significant compliance breaches and scandals. One of the reasons I'm so happy that Joya has joined us on the podcast is that she is someone who is both committed to ethics and compliance and has also been a local leader in her community in Houston, Texas. Joya has also continually worked to build her skill set and grow her career, while at the same time acting as a mentor and an advocate for others. And as part of Great Women in Compliance's commitment to social justice and diversity, Mary and I could not have a better guest to end February, which is Black History Month. Joya, thank you so much for being here.
And thank you, Lisa and Mary, for having me. This is such a wonderful opportunity.
We are so excited. So let's just get started. Can you talk a little bit about your accidental journey, as you call it, into compliance and how you decided to make it your career?
Absolutely. I started my legal career in the law firm quite a few years ago. And after my divorce, I needed a career in legal that would afford me work-life balance. So I accepted a job with Enron Corporation in their legal department. And after the fall of Enron in 2001, I went to work for Baker Hughes in the litigation department. Soon after I joined Baker Hughes, they were charged by the SEC with foreign bribery, and they brought in Jay Martin, who I call the father of compliance, and also a team of compliance lawyers. So I was recruited to work with them and work in litigation. Now, I have to confess, Lisa, I was kicking and screaming because I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about compliance and had no desire to take on that responsibility. And I was, to be honest, I was quite comfortable already in my role. But soon after working with Jay Martin and the team of lawyers and learning the importance of ethics and compliance and drafting policies and learning about the code of conduct and the importance of policies in place to potentially prevent what happened to me at Enron, as well as so many others, that created a passion within me for ethics and compliance.
Yeah, when we first talked, I remember I was at a law firm that was dealing with Enron after some of the scandal and through the bankruptcy and other things. But in your life, you seem to have witnessed that scandal and in Enron in 2001, and then the Gulf oil spill in 2016. As a compliance professional, I feel like you had that front row. And can you talk about what you saw and what you thought as those were playing out, and if there was, things you saw in common?
Absolutely. What I've learned is if there's smoke, there's probably some type of fire that's starting or has already started. And people cannot be disregarded when they're planting seeds of wrongdoings and general conversations or open conversations with other employees or with management, or sometimes you may hear things in the news media. I recall specifically sitting in an Enron employee meeting and being told by the executives that all is well, everything is fine, when in actuality it was not. And that caused an unfortunate financial impact on families and businesses across the world. And for me, this created a stereotype that the tone at the top may not be always operating in my favor, nor can be trusted. I mean, these are the people that we listen to, we base our decisions on when we're purchasing stock and investing in companies. And then, it was all a lot, basically. And since my experience, I'm just now very skeptical of how matters are addressed in meetings by leaderships and executives. I really listen more carefully, and I pay attention to details. I pay attention to rumors, just because now I have that fear within me. Enron has definitely left a scar, and I am fully dedicated as a compliance professional to do all I can to prevent another Enron. Same scenario surrounding the Gulf oil spill. Although there were many avenues for speaking up, people feared retaliation. They ignored signs of improper guidance by their management team in hopes that nothing, was going to go wrong. People doubted themselves by thinking, well, what if I misunderstood? Or what if I'm wrong? Or just have the it's not my problem attitude. People have got to learn to speak up, say no, this is wrong, or just report their concerns to compliance, to management, or call the hotline, or, just tell someone and maybe they can speak on your behalf. If people would just do these things, and I believe the mishaps around the Gulf oil spill may have been prevented.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And one of the other things, Mary recently spoke with one of the Theranos whistleblowers, Erika Chung, which really struck me there. But that was another incident where it took it takes a lot of courage to speak up. And I remind people and think about it all of the time. And that is another example to me where the more things change, some of them stay the same. And I think you also touched on the point, Theranos, similar to particularly Enron, where people's livelihoods and other things are ruined because some people are so unwilling to do what is right, or and the leadership is too busy trying to kind of protect what mistakes might be made. And I was wondering, do you see the similarities with Theranos also?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The case in Theranos is just another example of why, a strong code of conduct is important to help prevent a situation where one feels the need to be a whistleblower and the difficulties of this decision.
Yeah. One of the things that I try really hard to talk about, and actually just recently did this with leaders and executives and anybody, because I think for people, different people consider somebody else their leadership or management. It doesn't need to just be the CEO or a CFO. It's all throughout. To be able to just say in casual meetings or briefings, I think it's really important to say, look, I hope you don't have to do this, but if you have a problem and you don't feel like you're being heard, whether it's from HR or compliance or even me, please reach out to the Speak Up hotline or other ways. I think that that's an important thing, to have people feel that they're encouraged to use that. Because I think like what you were saying earlier about fear of retaliation and fear of the unknown and the courage is just huge. So encouragement from leaders, I've really been pushing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And let's change the topic a little, because one of the things that you are just really, and how I first got to know about you and hear about you, is that just what a strong advocate you are for networking and building a knowledge base in a career. And you have a very local focus. So I know that you have a couple of different initiatives. I'm going to start with the Greater Houston Business Ethics Roundtable. I think it's Gerber, if I pronounced it correctly. So
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I just think it's a really great group.
Thank you. Yes, I'll share about Gerber, Greater Houston Business Ethics Roundtable, also known as Gerber in Houston. This is an ethics and compliance organization that is dedicated to promoting ethical business practices and empowering the next generation. I sit on the board with many of the top compliance professionals here in Houston, who I can proudly say are just as compassionate about ethics and compliance as I am. We provide scholarships to local colleges, HBU, TSU, U of H, University of St. Thomas, and now South Texas College of Law. We provide seminars, or now webinars, on hot topics. In the summertime, we have a members-only workshop, and we annually recognize a top compliance professional that has really been dedicated to raising awareness in ethics and compliance, or has just done a lot in the ethics and compliance community. Also, Gerber affords an opportunity to connect and network with local professionals, which has been very, very valuable to me in my growth and development opportunities. For me, networking provides this the resource you need when you're in a position where you need to figure something out, or you need input from somebody, or you need a particular form. I've been able to reach out to members in Gerber. That's a great avenue as well. Just having that has been very, very valuable to me in my career. Another initiative that I recently participated in was the mission to make South Texas College of Law a leading institution in the compliance space for the Southern U.S. area, one that's going to meet the needs of our local and national professional community, including JD coursework for students at the school and professional development coursework and certifications to practitioners. I was honored to collaborate with a dynamic group of compliance professionals, and we designed compliance courses to launch this spring. And this is going to establish the school's commitment to the growing compliance interest that's also in the law schools, which I think will be very, very valuable to the compliance organizations, as they go out and work in corporate America or in law firms. It affords them that experience and learning opportunities. So I'm really excited about that. I think that was just awesome.
That is fabulous. And, as we talk about your building a compliance community, building relationships, you've also been impacted by, your position was impacted in 2020, and that's got to be not the easiest thing. One of the things that I just most admire about you, frankly, is that you've always had this commitment to being a great woman in compliance, regardless of where you are and, what you do, not what job you do, it's who you are. And I think, once you figure out or decide what you're doing next, I think that you have such great insight. Like, what advice would you give to management to do, to help build a better team and help to maintain tone from the top, having seen some of the best and some of the most, those that they'd say might have areas of opportunity?
Yes, I'd like to say that my ideal role would be including two critical things: passion and purpose. I want to work in an environment, Lisa, where my colleagues are just as compassionate about compliance as I am. I've obtained a master's degree in business ethics and compliance, and my compliance certification. And I want to work in an ethical environment where people are committed to prevent and detect misconduct on all levels and provide an effective compliance controls as well. Now, as a ethics and compliance professional, I think we need to create an environment where people feel comfortable speaking up and reporting sooner than later. I've learned that most people want to have a concrete or hard evidence before they even consider speaking up. However, we need to stress the importance of how critical it is to come forward when something doesn't feel right, sound right, or has the potential of being wrong. We need to create a comfortable and inviting environment for people to want to come forward. I believe employees, in addition to the board, they need to know stats of investigations to see that the companies are taking action when policies have been violated, or are doing something about matters where the policies aren't violated, but some type of corrective action is necessary. So employees will know that compliance is listening and things are being taken seriously. In addition, I think compliance professionals should be afforded the opportunity to obtain compliance certification, continue their education by attending ethics and compliance conferences and webinars, so we can stay abreast of the forever changing laws and new regulations, and and the compliance culture. Corporations and private practices should make it a requirement to increase their budgets to afford these opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, and also the dollar value that you pay for some of the different opportunities from conferences, in terms of both networking, the learning, the other things, you can actually help save a lot of money because it's a community of people who are sharing practices that may keep organizations out of trouble as much as growing their professionals. To me, they seem like win-win type things. It seems like one of those things that the benefits far outweigh what a cost would be for that. And frankly, outweigh some of the other costs that we see that are spent that may not be the most logical. But to be fair, Joya, I have a little bit of a bias on that because I think that continuing education for ethics and compliance professionals is really important and worth the rate of return. But then again, it really is my passion, like yours. So, and with that, one other thing is that as I mentioned at the beginning, we're speaking. At the end of February. And first of all, I'd like everybody to know that Joya is doing great after being in Houston all of last week, still warming up. It was a bit stressful. And I wanted to move on to talk a bit about, it sounds like it was really, you're doing a lot better there right now. But then I also wanted to talk a little bit about this being Black History Month. And move on for you to talk about what, as a Black woman, some of the things that you see as challenges for you personally, and also how you feel like us in this field can do better in diversity. We can talk about it in the big picture for, and related to all genders, as well as, and for people of color, as well as for women.
Sure. Yes, as a Black woman in ethics and compliance, I personally see the opportunity to connect or just get on the radar with the right people to create diversity as a challenge. And I would say through my conversation with others, African-American women and men as well, they've experienced this as well. It's clear that not all people or organizations recognize that diversity and inclusion are essential aspects of an effective compliance program. I think D&I in the last couple of years has been put on the radar for a lot of corporations. They're developing their D&I programs or creating D&I programs more so. I recently connected with a new organization, the National Association of Black Compliance and Risk Management Professionals, that was founded in 2019, that's dedicated to the professional development of African-American compliance and risk management professionals. And I'm hoping this organization can help close some of these gaps and create opportunity for African-American women professionals in compliance a seat at the table.
And Joya, that we love NABCRUB here over at Great Women in Compliance. We've spoken to Jennifer from there, and when we worked on a book, that was one of the organizations that we wanted to donate money to. We think that it is a fabulous organization and bringing so much good to the profession, not just in terms of professional development, but having the right view on getting all the right people at whatever the table is to assess risk. So I just love that you're a part of that as well. I love those connections.
Well, thank you. So am I.
Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that in there, and as I know you'll continue talking more about the big picture here. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Specifically, I don't see any men or women of color, Lisa, in chief compliance officer roles. I would love to see that change as well. I don't see many people of color featured on the cover of compliance literature, that I read often, and I feel that needs to change. I've attended many conferences for years, the SCCE, Converge, local conferences here in Houston and Dallas, and I meet African Americans at these conferences, and they hold high positions in compliance arena, but only appear as attendees, not speakers or on panels, or they're not hosting webinars and seminars, and we all have agreed that we need to see this change. And hopefully this will change soon. I do see it getting better and increasing, but I think it needs to broaden, not just in Houston, but across the compliance globe. We just need to have more diversity in the compliance space.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think, it's wider. Obviously, in the podcast, we talk a lot about gender, but it is, having global participation, not just U.S., and particularly having, Black women. That's for us as a women-based podcast, and diversity and people of color, doing all of these leadership roles is really important. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to continue doing better with that. Is there anything else you'd want to share about that?
I would just like to say that as an African-American woman, I feel that my participation on this great Women in Compliance podcast is definitely a step in the right direction, especially for promoting the advancement of African-American women in compliance. It has been an honor, and it has been encouraging for me to be able to share my beliefs, my values, and my commitment to ethics and compliance on this podcast. It's my prayer that my thoughts and words shared today will create a current that will send forth just a ripple of hope towards the advancement and promotion of a more diverse environment in the ethics and compliance community. As I said earlier, in order to close the gap and create opportunity as African-American professionals, we need to have a seat at the table. And in honor of Black History Month, I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Shirley Chisholm. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair.
I actually love that quote. Shirley Chisholm is a hero, and one of mine as well. And I think that was fabulous. There's nothing I can add to that, but I do want to thank you so much for taking the time with us and sharing your wit and wisdom. And on behalf of Mary and me and the Great Women in Compliance podcast, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Great Women in Compliance. We hope you'll join us in honoring the great women in the compliance field by subscribing to this podcast and leaving a review.